Are there any questions? Well, this is supposed to be like a saxophone master class.
Who's your favorite sax player?
Oh, Cannonball Adderley is definitely top 3. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's I go back to him, and it's just like a beautiful evolving flower, you know. Just checking out like between his sound and his precision, articulation, and ideas, soulfulness. Yeah, definitely Cannonball. Sorry? Oh, that's a Cole Porter tune, I Love You. That was from us to you. We love you for being here tonight. Oh my goodness, is that Cody? Oh my gosh. Wow, okay, wow. You know, traveling, it's like you see a number of different people, and you might see people that look like people, but you recognize people's spirits because you guys had like something that you experienced earlier on, like musically. And man, Cody, he's a great tenor saxophonist. Man, do you guys know Cody?
I just know you.
Oh gosh, oh my gosh. Yeah, all right. Yeah, man, thank you for coming. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it caught me off guard. It's been like almost 2 decades. Ooh, that's scary. Yeah, so you guys, I know there are a lot of students here, and yeah.
What's your approach to solo?
You know, recently, it's kind of a broad response, but recently, I've been dealing like a lot with rhythms, different rhythms, and trying to, this is something that I was sharing with you guys, but trying to take a rhythmic idea, just like a 3-snippet idea, and making sure that I'm carrying it throughout the length of my solo as like the strength, like the thesis statement of my solo. So I think it was the last course I took, or maybe in the trading, I was trying to deal with and allowing that to carry throughout the entirety of the solo, so it has a cohesiveness to it. Between that and like using different intervallic approaches, like minor thirds and half steps. This is something that Greg Osby shared with me in a lesson that I had with him maybe about a year ago. But just using minor thirds, like dealing with that half step right there, and then a minor third from that. So in something like I Love You, like having different chromatic approaches to the actual chord tones. Yeah, that's just one of the main things. You guys want us to play? Oh.
It's not a musical question.
Okay.
I know you're from Denver, right?
Yes, sir.
And I was wondering if you're younger than him, if you ever played with Javon.
Oh yeah, that's he's like my big brother. When I first moved out to New York,
Yeah.
he lived about 15 minutes. I actually moved out to New York 2 days before the World Trade Center collapsed on September 9th. And so he and his wife, I went over there and I would just hang with he and his family because I was just settling in. And but he actually, my dad actually gave him one of his first gigs in Denver. And it's a small world because at the time I was like 10. And I remember my sister and I, it was like this outdoor mall. My sister and I were playing chess. And I remember this tall tenor saxophonist, young cat, you know, playing with my dad. And years later I found out it was Javon. He reminded me of that incident, actually. So yeah, he's been a definite role model and big brother, a figure that's really helped to push me and support me along the way, especially when I moved out to New York.
That's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
You told me how Von Freeman took him under his wing.
Oh, Javon did?
He played, he taught him how to drink.
Oh, shoot. Uh-oh.
No, I'm sorry. That was Ron Blake.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I don't want to tell a lie. That was Ron Blake. That's about it. But, you know, same difference.
Hey, it's all important stuff, really.
I won't tell anything that's really off color, but they told me some other stuff I would never share.
Okay. Yeah, mentorship, you know, is a big thing. I think, like that's one of the main reasons I think that we do what we do as musicians is we're to provide a sense of hopefully enlightenment and some sort of inspiration. And I don't know how many of you that are younger want to teach. Raise your hand if you want to teach. Okay, or if you're already in education, music education. But to me, like playing this music is not about just standing up there and playing and, you know, people clapping, but it's a cyclic effect that's happening of sharing energy and then energy being reciprocated back. And on many different levels we can educate and inspire, whether it be on the stage, you know, whether it be a particular solo that you play that just, you know, makes somebody kind of break down and cry, and they come up to you afterwards and they're like, man, you actually saved my life, because I was thinking about committing suicide last night. And I've had that a couple times, people coming up a couple times, but just knowing that this music is not self-serving, but it's constantly in this transient state of like giving and receiving and giving and receiving. And now, you know, I'm actually teaching at Berklee School of Music, but at this period in my life, I feel like it's a really important time, a fertile time to really be able to share everything that I've gone through, not just musically, but as far as life, with students, because, you know, they're out here really trying to get it, and out here really trying to figure out what this thing, music, is about. And yeah, it's largely about playing and professionalism, but it's a whole pile of other stuff, like how you conduct your business, how do you book a gig, how do you function in the studio, how are you as a band leader, how do you function with a manager and a booking agent, what are your expectations? Like that whole gamut is something that I continuously try to share with students on, like at school and outside of school. So mentorship, I have a lot of students outside of the school, or a lot of younger individuals that I try to help along the way. And then I constantly tap into other people such as Javon, or like Terry Lynn is one of my main mentors, Brad Lely, you know. Do you guys know who Brad Lely is? He used to play in Count Basie Orchestra. But he I'm sorry? Yeah, he teaches out there. He's like the, yeah, he's a bad alto player. But he was one of the main ones that really, set up, or actually called me to sub for him in a lot of big bands when I first moved to New York in 2001. Which was cool, because, you know, it's all about creating smooth transitions. I've kind of been talking about this, and being proactive in your preparation, trying to figure out where it is that you want to go, starting from the big picture and then kind of centering back to where you are today, and every day working toward that vision, maintaining that crystallized vision. And he was one individual that allowed me to kind of get my feet wet on the scene in New York. He would call and say, Tia, you know, I need a sub, and Duke Ellington Orchestra. So I was playing with the Duke Ellington Orchestra at Birdland every Monday night when he wasn't able to make it. Or Charlie Persick big band, you know. And they used to have these rehearsal bands in New York, and you just go out there and you just play. And you meet cats, and they'd hear you play, and then hopefully somebody would call you for a gig eventually. But through that experience, it was just a lot of just learning to remain diverse, and to not block your opportunities, but play all types of music. Play funk, play jazz, play at church, play in a wedding band, you know? And a lot of this was out of necessity, because I was trying to pay my rent. You know? I remember, I on my wall in my first apartment, my crooked apartment in Jersey City, New Jersey, I had on my wall goal, I wanted to make like, I think $800 a month because my rent was $550. And then I needed some, you know, some living expenses. So, but that was like, at that point, that was one of my goal points. And from there, I was substitute teaching at a private Catholic school. And I was teaching, not music, but I was teaching computers, I was teaching remedial reading and math. It's very, very random, but it was allowing me, I only had to teach like 11 to 2, so it allowed me to practice early in the morning and then late at night and then go and hit the sessions at night to kind of, you know, balance everything out and try to create opportunities, playing opportunities. So I kind of went off onto a little tangent, but all of that to me is important, and as a musician, a complete musician, of course, honing in on the instrument and learning your instrument and the language, but also, you know, when you guys want to start working with the band or starting your own band, all of the other things that come along with it in order for you to be successful, you know, whatever you define as success, of course, because the definition is different, but be clear with yourself. What is it that I want to do? Be very specific with your goals, you know, and that'll help to set you in that trajectory of like, boom, this is what I'm going to do. And like on a metaphysical level, you're able to put those, hopefully those wishes or those prayers out, and you immediately start to attract them because it's energy. It's all, you know, transferring of energy. Going back to initially what I was talking about before with sharing, inspiring, and all of that, but hopefully through all of that, you know, you attract a certain thing that you want or that you've been praying about, and you go from there, and you just keep growing, hopefully moving forward. Yeah.
When in your life did you feel like you experienced the most growth as a musician?
Ooh, that's a great question. You know, there are some distinctive times. I think when I first moved to New York, for sure, because I was not only trying to play, but I was trying to live. And that puts a certain fire behind your playing. You know, it's like, man, I'm doing this not because I'm just trying to do it, but I'm doing this because this is my way of my lifestyle, my living. So I was definitely growing a lot then. I think I also grew a lot when I started playing in Beyoncé's band, which was because I constantly, that world is completely different than, you know, what we experience on a daily basis, but I was still trying to create holes in my schedule of practicing and growing and building. And with not everybody around you doing that one thing, you really have to be focused and have to have a crystallized vision of what you're trying to get done. So even if it was like a small amount of time where we travel, get to the hotel, go to sound check, I'd try to find like a room or a restroom, or, you know, and I would kind of wear everybody out, but I'd be in there practicing at least for like a half hour, like, Tia, you know. I wake them up on the tour bus really late. I actually got cursed out one time. Actually, Caddy Rodriguez, you guys, she's Keon. That's my girl. That's like my girl, but she was like, Tia, what are you doing? I was back there playing long tones in a pillow in the lounge and like practice, thinking that they couldn't hear me. But have you guys ever been on a tour bus? Okay, so there's like a lounge in the back area, and then it's separated by this door, and then it's bunk beds, separated by another door, and then it's a front lounge and a kitchen. So I was in the back, you know, turning into the pillow and trying to practice, and she came back there, the door open, she's like, what you doing? I was like, okay, sorry. But that allowed for me to really create a space for like growth and really trying to remain focused on my vision, because I knew that wasn't an end result for me. It was just a stepping stone, you know. So that, and yeah, those are probably two main times. But I think daily we should kind of be in the mindset of growing and of constantly learning something new. Like, I was upstairs checking out all the saxophones. Have you guys been up there? That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I had no idea it was here. I knew about Saxquest, but I didn't know that it was here. So.
When practicing, how would you split the time between doing like scales and intervals and playing along like favorite recordings or just trying with them?
Yeah. You know, it really depends on, I could tell you what I did back in school, you know, and then I could tell you what I do now, just because my schedule's different. So, but it really depends on, again, what is your goal point? What is your big picture for yourself? Like, what is it that you want to accomplish by the end of the year? And you could take it, okay, what do I want to accomplish at the end of 10 years, you know? And bringing it, scoping it back to where you are today. So what I used to do in college, especially when I had time all throughout my day, and I had a pretty regimented schedule, is I had a practice regimen in a journal that the night before, like on Sunday night, again, I knew that I wanted to move to New York. That was a big picture. I wanted to have my own band. This is when I was like 18. Like when I first met Cody, I think, 18, 19. But I knew that I wanted all these big things. And so I was like, okay, I'm still trying to learn my major scales right now. But at this point, I took out my practice journal the night before, Sunday night, and I completely mapped out my entire day and my entire week. So I was like, okay, I want to learn this John Coltrane transcription, and I need to work on these scales and patterns and then learn these tunes by the end of the week. So I would map my entire day out 7 a.m. wake up, you know, 7:30, get dressed, go to the gym. 8 a.m. do whatever at the gym. 9 a.m. come back, eat breakfast. 10 a.m. go to theory class. 11 a.m. and then go all the way through my day that was inclusive of not only my practice regimen, but my class schedule, all the way from like 7 a.m. until about 11, and I would check everything off. And everything on that schedule that I'd write down directly led to the goal points of the end of the week. And so the 5 things that I would focus on throughout the course of the practice was scales, well, long tones, scales and patterns, depending on what I was working on. Transcribing, at least for an hour. I think transcribing was usually for like 2 hours. And then learning my repertoire, like expanding repertoire. And also during that time, I was, because I didn't go to a conservatory, like all of my other peers, I went to Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a historically black all-girls school. So the music department was, I mean, until this day, the building looks like a little shack, you know? And there was a jazz ensemble that was comprised of like whatever musicians that the band director could find. But I had to kind of create my own conservatory outside of the school because I knew the school was going to give me certain things, but musically was going to be lacking certain things. So I was going to sit in with a lot of different people. Terry Gully was one of my main mentors. Tank, he's from this area too, yeah. But and I just sit in at different clubs out there a couple times a week and just try to learn as much as I could, and then come back, you know, the next day, write out my practice regimen, boom, boom, boom. Sometimes I wouldn't hit everything, but guaranteed I'd say 85–90% of the stuff I would hit, and it would directly lead toward that goal point of the end of the week, then the end of the month, the end of the 6 months, and then the end of the year, and then 10 years, boom. But a lot of prayer too, you know, for certain things that, I mean, as far as just opportunities and stuff, but also work. Faith without work is dead. So you have to have a certain element of faith in what you're doing. I mean, here we are playing this music. You can't see it, we can't touch it, but we know it's there. That's faith, right? To be like getting to your instrument and to know that something's there. We can't see it or we can't touch it. But that's like the essential definition of faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. That's what we do every day. So it's a matter of just living, you know, projecting that and living in that. Trying to, at least.
What about sight reading? Like, I'm his mom.
Oh.
I hear him transcribing and doing scales and stuff, but then like he'll go to an audition or something and they'll be like, well, sight reading's really like, right? The rest is like, is that gonna hold, like, is that something that really needs to be
Definitely.
working on?
Yeah, that needs to be a part of your practice regimen, right alongside of the transcribing. Because, I mean, you never want to be in a situation where you're like, man, I should have done that. I know I've been there many times. Like, man, I should have worked on that when I knew that this was something that I needed to work on, that was weak. So, yeah, sight reading is important. I mean, given that that's what you want to do, like you want to play in other people's bands, you might want to play in a big band or, you know, R&B band with charts. But all of those things are really important because, again, we're diversifying and we're trying to gather as much information so that we can be the complete musician as we possibly can. So yeah, just incorporate that and do it every day. You know, you could just grab whatever music at school that your band director and just ask, oh, hey, can I get some charts? And just read those every day. Just work on, you know, rhythmic accuracy. And but that comes with just like anything else. Doing it, yeah, the discipline of it and just the consistency of it. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. You guys want us to play? Would you like us to play again? Okay. Do you know I Can't Get Started in C? Is that cool? Or, no? Okay. Maybe we could just do, maybe you'll hear it.
Okay.
Come in the bridge, okay? This is actually, this is a great demonstration because Nathan, right? Okay. I don't know why I want to call you Quincy. I don't know why. I'm sorry. But Nathan, sometimes people just look like certain people, and I'm just like, no, you don't be Quincy. But a great demonstration of how to learn a tune on the spot. He says he doesn't know it, he's never played it, but he's courageous enough to step into it.
Come on, Quincy. And
has the faith. Oh yeah, that's cool. So if you want to come in on the bridge, you guys are coming on the bridge. I'll kind of play with them. Okay. Actually, it's just you and I at the A's. And then you guys can come. So that was I Can't Get Started. C. And of course, Cannonball Adderley does a beautiful rendition of that too. But yeah.
Yeah, you burned on that one.
Oh, well, thank you.
I was just telling him you got a little bit of Michael Brecker in you.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's definitely a compliment. Thank you. Thank you. Did he do that? Did he do that
I'm
one?
talking about the way you attack that.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right. Thank you. Hey, I love Michael Brecker too. He's, man, the ultimate shoot. Definitely. So, any more questions? We have about 20 minutes left, and this has really been. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you. You obviously have a passion for performance,
Mm-hmm.
but you connect that passion with also education. So tell me, for you, how does that play out as you go forth in what you do in this life?
Well, it's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same. Going back to what I was sharing with you all earlier of definitely performance is definitely a passion. For a long time though, I was scared to play like in front of people. I was scared to solo. I was just, not confident. And so that, the beautiful thing about life is we're constantly evolving. And the more that I played, the more that I learned, of course, the more confident you become. And I'm sharing that because some of you might not be as confident playing yet, and I just want to encourage you to continue to do it, because with that, with all the knowledge that you gain, you're going to become more confident in yourself. So just with the confidence of the performance, and then it being synonymous with education. Yeah, it's all the same. That's one thing that when I finished grad school, this is actually when I first met Cody. I think I was in grad school, or undergrad or something. But I went to go get my grad degree out in Colorado, where I'm originally from. And there were a couple of opportunities for me to teach. And directly, when I was like 24, to go directly to college and start teaching. And I knew that I wanted to be the type of educator to not teach out of rhetoric, but to teach out of experience. And that's why it was such an important thing, aside from just it being a passion of mine, but to moving to New York. Because I knew that if I wanted to play this music, like really be serious about it, I needed to learn what it was about, being out there and playing and struggling, like the element of struggle. And not being like eating beans for a couple of months because I can't, beans and spinach salad. But there's like an element of struggle there that's like, man, I don't have the luxury. I grew up in like a middle-class household. Both of my parents are musicians as well as educators. And so didn't really want for much, and grew up in a very comfortable environment. And I remember sharing with my parents, I was like, I want to go to New York and I want to struggle, which is crazy because I'm done with that part of my life. But I'm so thankful for that time, because it was, it was a fertile period, a very, very fertile period. And also during that period, when I moved out to New York, I met Sean. And we actually moved out there, and we didn't know each other. We kind of knew about each other, but we met each other around, I think we moved out there the same month, ironically enough. And so it's amazing that what this music does is it brings, I was just out in Pittsburgh talking to Roger Humphreys, and he was just like, man, Tia, I'm so proud of you, because here you are, and you wouldn't know any of these people if it wasn't for this music. And I was like, yeah. Sometimes we take it for granted because it's just what we do all the time. But he was like, you wouldn't have half of these experiences that you have if it wasn't for this music. So the constant evolution of yourself and of being around people and hopefully trying to inspire people and uplift and educate, it's all synonymous. It's all the same. And yeah. That's why I went out to move out to New York, and now I'm able to teach and kind of bring it all together through my experience, which is beautiful, because I'm really able to tell students, I'm just like, man, you guys make sure you do this, because I didn't, you know, just out of the experience that I've had for myself. I've either done it or I haven't, or whatever it is. I see what it is out there, and it's deep. How many of you guys are professional musicians? Okay, so y'all know what I'm talking about.
Paying dues.
Paying dues, exactly. Yep. Yeah, it's all about paying dues. So.
Could you, when you end, would you play some blues?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, the last two.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
definitely.
I mean, like,
Okay. What do you play?
Trump.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's why you were looking for Sean. Yeah.
Are you familiar with another female great alto player, Vi Red?
Of course.
That's what I wanted. I thought about her, I hadn't thought about her in years when I hear you play. Not that you sound like her, but she was one of the great ones from a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I said, when was she influenced by her?
Yeah. I have this history of women in jazz PowerPoint presentation, and there's a but she's in there. Like, there's a video with her, and this was like my first. Ironically enough, Lakeisha Benjamin, I remember she posted this video, and then I lifted the video and put it in this presentation. But she's singing and playing with the Count Basie Orchestra.
I would say she's a good singer too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you guys checked out Vi Red at all? Woo! She's bad, like vocalist, and then her sound and playing. She's just really very, very soulful. But yeah.
I got a question.
Oh.
Was there a moment, maybe like when you moved to New York or something, where like it was, I don't know, maybe like a more like negative moment, like where everything kind of came crashing down and you really had to like push through and like come out of it, or was it all? I mean, I'm sure it wasn't all just like, you know. But
No, there were a couple of those moments, several.
Yeah.
One in particular. 2004, 2005. I was living in Jersey, or in Orange, New Jersey, and I remembered a lot of the people around me were like getting record deals and, you know, getting certain gigs and traveling around the world, and I just felt like I was trying to do everything, you know, we were all kind of on the same path, but everything was breaking through for everybody else, and I was just kind of staying the same. And this is the importance of breakthroughs, like really pressing through beyond that point which you think is comfortable or possible, because it was during that time that, man, I wanted to give up. I wanted to stop playing. I was thinking about just quitting and doing something else. And so instead of doing that, I remember my mom saying, Tia, this was in 2004, she was like, Tia, the best investment, and this is for parents, but the best investment that I can make as a mother is to invest in my children. So what she did was she funded and was the executive producer for my first album, because I was seeing a lot of my friends get record deals, you know, and I was like, man, it's not happening for me, I'm waiting, you know. And sometimes we have to create those opportunities for ourselves, whether it be getting the gig, you know, going out and talking to a club owner, booking your own studio session, or whatever it is, to create that opportunity to open up that window for you. So through that, we recorded, my mom funded it, and that's the first recording, Pillar of Strength. But it's funny because I go back to that, and the sound on that is just horrible. I didn't know what, I mean, it's just like what, it's like the reverb in the background, and then it's just crazy. But, you know, a lot of people like that album the most because there was a certain amount of urgency that was coming out, like I'm either gonna live or die. That's what it felt like. And at that point, I remember I was like, man, I mean, I was very, very depressed. Very, very depressed. And so for that recording, that fire just for life came out through that janky recording, you know, the sound of the recording. But the fire kind of transcends through that, you know. And then with that, after I recorded that, I just started, I had the product, and I went through all of the points of like the photo shoot, you know, having to mix. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but we were in this guy's basement mixing. It took like 30-something hours to mix and extra reverb and trying to do all this other stuff. But the end result was that I had a product that I was proud of, and it was characteristic and indicative of like where I was at that time. And from that, I was able to kind of to shop around, and I was sending it out to like Blue Note, I was sending it to Verve, and I got rejected to all of those. And but the element of press through, I was going and trying to book gigs, you know, with the CD. And it wasn't until I actually I was introduced to Mack Avenue Records on Sean's album, his first album, and that's how I got the recording deal indirectly through that opportunity. And then right after I got signed to Mack Avenue Records, all of this stuff opened up for me. I was working way more. I got the Beyoncé gig a couple years later, and it was just like, boom! You know, my whole career was just like, and one thing my pastor always talks about, that there's a blessing in your pressing. And so if you feel, because this thing that we're on, this path, is not always gonna be like this. You're gonna go like this, like, you know, and it's those low points. What is it that you do with those low points? Are you gonna press through, or are you gonna give up, you know? And that was one of my main periods in my life where the blessing was in my pressing. It was like real clear. And from that point on, I was extremely thankful, you know, and the work didn't stop though. Because a lot of people think like, you know, when you get a certain gig or opportunities that you stop. No, the momentum is already there, and you want to maintain the momentum by continuing to practice, continuing to, you know, explore and just work harder and evolve. So, why are you feeling frustrated?
No.
You shouldn't be. Okay, good. Okay, good. Well, put it in your back pocket. Just in case.
I have a question about, since you've been looking back over the whole arc of your growth as a musician, there's a book somebody gave me. It was written by a visual artist. The name of the book was Steal Like an Artist.
Steal?
Steal.
S-T-E-A-L or
right.
S-T? Okay.
And it was a book about just discussing the whole issue of people want to be original and not derivative, but to learn your field, you have to learn what's out there, and you have to learn what other people have done. So while you're gathering ideas, it's okay to imitate, to learn how other people have done things. And I want to ask you if you support this idea. And then on the basis of learning, having been exposed yourself to the way all these people play this, then your own voice can come through. So, but some people are embarrassed, is what I'm trying to say. While they're growing, they're afraid they need to be original immediately without ever learning to imitate first, and because it's their growth time. So I guess I want to ask you about, is it okay to steal for a while?
Definitely. I mean, definitely. Yeah, I'm in complete support of that thought. And really, I would say that that's what this music and life is built upon. We're standing on the shoulders of our ancestors, of the people before us. So it's actually a disservice to not do that. You know, I was speaking to a couple of the students, and they were like, man, I want my own voice. I want my own voice, you know. I want to hear my own sound, my own voice. It's like, yeah, but like you were saying, a lot of the visual artists, they studied the history of the masters. And through that, your individual voice comes through. So yeah, I'm in complete support of that. Mm-hmm.
So it's cool to steal until you get real.
I like that. I'm like, can I take that? Steal until you get real.
Well, that's what transcribing is, right? When you're listening to other music and you're hearing it, you're picking up the intonations.
Yeah, well,
I don't know, I'm not a musician.
no. That's exactly it. This analogy of like, you know, when you're immersed in something so much to where you become it. just that it becomes an innate part of you, and you don't even know, like subconsciously, superconsciously, you're there. So like if somebody calls, I think I shared this with a couple of students, but if somebody calls your house, and of course you've grown up in this household, and you say hello, you know, you're maturing, you've learned all of your vowels, your syllables, you're hearing your mom and dad talk, and you answer hello, and then the other person is like, oh baby, you sound just like your mama. You know, I don't know if that's ever happened. Ooh, you sound just like your daddy. Boy, put your father on the phone. Like that. But it's the same idea. We're not trying necessarily, but as a result of being immersed. I'm sorry?
It's not robbery.
It's not. No. It's not robbery, but actually we're paying honor to the people before us, to our ancestors, to our parents. And yeah, it comes through subconsciously through what we're doing, just by the way we're phrasing certain things. If you're studying train, you know, and if that's all you're focusing on, just like zeroing in on train, then you're gonna get a lot of his inflection, his sound, like if you're really being honest with yourself. Because the thing is with transcribing, sometimes you'll get the notes, and I'm talking to myself too, but you'll get the notes and be like, oh shoot, I got it, I'm good. No, that's not being honest, because you're not really speaking in the spirit of train. But it's not only just the notes, but it's the phrasing, the articulation, his sound, and really trying to become one with him as you're playing with him. So still serving, allowing him to serve as like the master and us being subservient up under that, and integrating our sound with his, so that when we step away from that, we've truly captured the full essence and spirit of his sound and his, you know, his articulation and all of that. So eventually when you step away from it, it's a part of you so much, just like, hello, oh boy, you sound just like your daddy. And you're like, oh no, you know, I'm just, what you been doing? Oh, I started school and I'm going. And then you start to speak about your journey, but in reference of your father, just because it's there.
You can say Maceo Parker with me.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, he's a Maceo Parker, definitely. Yeah.
As an alto saxophonist, I've done Googling and YouTubing and everything, and I think his sound is more distinct from any other alto saxophonist.
Whose sound?
What do you think the Sanborn doing differently than anybody else? I've heard his mouthpiece is different. What is he doing that makes it stand out?
Well, I don't know, because I've never talked to him about his sound. But two things. I'd say more importantly, a person's sound is imprinted in their head. So how he's hearing himself, I'm sure no matter what equipment he has, he'll be able to strive and get that sound. You know what I'm saying? Just like Bird, like, you know, he would play any horn and he still sound like Bird. I'm sure he probably preferred a certain instrument, just like Sanborn did, or does. But another thing is that Emilio Lyons, sax doctor, he works on Sonny Rollins' horn, Kenny Garrett's horn, like all the great saxophone, Javon's horn, and he's in Boston, but he was telling me about David Sanborn and how he always wants, and I think this is something to do with his high register, to like pop his high register out, but it's something on the top part of his horn that he wants, I think, one of these keys to not close all the way. So it's little things that he does on his instrument that allow him to kind of get to certain notes. But ultimately, I mean, Sanborn, he's also playing, I don't know what his setup is, but I think he's playing a metal mouthpiece. So it's going to give him a little bit more of a brighter sound and more punchy sound, you know. But essentially, sound is generated from what we're hearing and for ourselves, like in our own brains. There's this great adage I've been sharing with the students this week is, I think, therefore I am. So if you're thinking and if you're hearing yourself a certain way, and this is very relevant to how you see yourself as well, like in projecting yourself. But if you're surrounding yourself with a certain sound, or if you're hearing yourself a certain way and imprinting your brain with that, like your being with that, you will become that, no matter what's in front of you. So, you like David Sanborn?
Yeah, I like that sound.
Yeah.
That altissimo range is pretty distinct.
Uh-huh.
Along with others, too.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, though. I like John Coltrane, Sonny Rollins. It's such as yourself.
Oh, well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On YouTube, I think I was looking at I can't pronounce her name.
Esperanza?
Yeah. And I was looking at you follow her and she was singing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, you know, there's something about, I've been blessed with playing with a lot of vocalists the past probably 5 years. And Esperanza is a musician, as we all know. Like, she knows the music and the core of the music. And so that back and forth that we have is, it's pretty extraordinary because her voice is not only as a vocalist, but her voice is her instrument. And she has the facility and the technique and the harmony to reach some stuff that's like, whoa, you know? That's like, oh man. But yeah, she's really exciting to play with. And even like Diane Reeves, like playing with her, like her instrument is her being. It's not just her voice, but it's like all of this, you know? And really seeing and working, even Beyoncé, like working with these different vocalists, you see how, I think how it's imperative that we as musicians are able to tap into our instruments and allow it to be more of an extension of ourselves. Because vocalists always are carrying their instrument with them, and so when they sing, you know, they're real, very, very cautious of like the temperature and what they're eating, or you know how they're feeling, and as an instrumentalist, just seeing that, it's like, man, they're really caring for this instrument because it's their being, and how can I kind of translate that into playing the saxophone? Because this is an extension. I want this to function like a finger or a toe, you know, not thinking about it, but checking that out is eye-opening, definitely for me.
Are you familiar with saxophonist Earl Boston?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
He had a sound that was very unique,
Mm-hmm.
and one of his popular tunes was
Flamingo. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Heard you play that?
Yes. Yeah.
He's one of my favorites. I remember Greg Osby a few years back, he was living here, asked me if I had any Earl Boston.
Do you have some?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Most everything.
Can I get some from you? I'm gonna figure. Yeah. I was hip to Earl Boston because Train checked out Earl Boston, and when he was walking the bars, you know, and that was one thing that just really trying to find that balance of like the R&B world and the jazz world, and I was checking out what he was doing, you know, between the two, and of course Train checked it out, so I was like, shoot, let me check that out. But his sound specifically, and like the content of what he's playing, it's a nice balance between the two, the soulfulness, but also the grit and the content of like bebop, the language.
Yes, earlier today I heard you speaking on confidence as soon as we started the segment or whatever you were speaking about, the importance of confidence. But how do you maintain this confidence in the midst of everything else that's going on around you? How do you maintain that confidence?
You know, once you tap into what your purpose is, then you can constantly function out of that. So, because that, you know, given on different situations, your confidence might waver. But if you know that you're here to do a certain thing and to be a certain thing, not only for you, but for other people, for the world, then it puts you right back in alignment to your path. And the focus shifts. to, oh man, I'm scared, you know, from I'm scared, I don't know if I can do this, to I know what God has placed within me, and I'm going to tap into that. And that's when your voice, more so than the confidence, but just like the voice and that, you walking in your path. You're welcome. It's funny because back in, like when I was 21, 22, I was a part of this African sisterhood called Nzinga at Spelman. And basically it was a spiritual rites of passage that encompassed 5 basic principles of humility, forgiveness, nurturing, and I'm forgetting the other 2. But one of the things that we used to exercise, like this is the importance of like meditation for me, and this is just only my view site. So, but the importance of meditation and prayer and reading, you know, surrounding yourself with positive people. But we would exercise those things that we think that were our purpose. And even if you're trying to find what it is, I knew that back then that a lot of people were sharing with me, yeah, Tia, you know, you're a bright light, or you bring a certain amount of energy when you're around, you know. And the more I thought about it, I was like, man, that's definitely who I am, or I try to be sometimes, or most of the time. But I realized more and more that part of my purpose, or a lot of my purpose, is to be a light for others. And that has helped me to settle more into what I'm supposed to be doing on this earth. So, you know, from playing on a stage of like 20,000 people, to playing in a jazz club, to teaching, to being on the computer, emailing booking agents, you know, club owners, all of that, again, the big picture for me is to be a light for others. So if I'm able to open up opportunity for other people, or for myself, then I know that I can open up opportunity for other people. And that allows me to like kind of settle into a certain level of obligation, and it gives me a sense of not entitlement, but completion. I'm looking for the word and I can't find it, but it gives me a sense of what's another word for purpose? Fulfillment. Yeah, because I know that I'm not necessarily doing it for myself, but I'm doing it to create way for others. You know. So, oh shoot. You guys want to play one? Do we have any more questions before we? Oh, yes, sir.
What was the Beyoncé gig like? Just like the mechanics of it, you know?
Mechanics like
how much playing versus pre-recorded stuff. And
oh.
Did it change a whole lot, 99 or anything?
Yeah, it was a lot of rehearsing, a lot of wasted time. I'm sorry, I just had to be real. But for the amount of music that we played, we would rehearse 8 hours a day. Actually, our first gig was the BET Music Awards, and we were learning Deja Vu. And that first week, we rehearsed like 10 hours a day to play all of 2 minutes on BET. And with that, we actually, we got there, we were all ready to play, and they were like, oh, actually, you guys are playing 2-track, meaning that we're not actually playing. We were up there playing, but it wasn't coming through the front of house. It was coming, we had already pre-recorded tracks and like stacked, especially the horn parts. And so it was the box. And so we were just pretty much, you know, if they're mindless. You guys got the inside scoop. but that's not to say that, you know, of course we can play. We were all musicians, but that was definitely a point of reality that I immediately stepped into, like, whoa, this is not just about musicianship, but it's about largely off perception, and it's largely based off of, you know, what she wants, what a certain environment needs and dictates. Like for the show, the live touring show that we did, of course we were playing all the way through that, but they would have us pre-recorded into the box, which is like Pro Tools track, and she would want, like, I think she said 80 or 70% track, 30% band coming through you're talking about like the logistics of it, the technicals. So coming through the front of the house, because she wants her stuff to sound like the album, like the record. And it wasn't until we really went, I mean, there were a couple of parts throughout the course of the show that she featured band members. She actually featured me on the solo. She actually featured everybody on different solos that allowed us to really, really play and kind of dig in. But it wasn't really until the live at Wynn Theater. It was a sheerly acoustic show with strings, the full band, vocals, dancers, and it was all acoustic. And that's actually where she scattered some Ella Fitzgerald, which was upon my recommendation, of course. But she was up there. Yeah.
Quick question. How many reads do you go through? Actually, kind of two parts. How many reads do you go through per week? Just to give me an idea how much I should probably practice.
Oh.
And the other question is, I noticed you right away. You sound great when you started playing. Do you, like my teacher told me to soak my reeds in a pill bottle with some peroxide.
A what bottle? A pill. Oh, pill. Like, oh, okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, well, it depends on where you are in the world, like in the country, because certain parts of the country in the world are extremely dry, and then other parts are very humid. So I'm originally from Colorado, and all that soaking and stuff, I know exactly what you're talking about, because a reed will dry up in your mouth in Colorado. Cody, you remember? It's like, what? It's like you wait for a second, and then you play it, it's like, it was just working. And then you look at it, and it has a whole bunch of warping on it. So, yeah, maintenancing reeds. I used to put my reeds in a plastic bag with like either a wet sponge or a wet paper towel. The only thing about that is you have to be careful not to leave it there, because you'll take it out and it'll have some green mold on it, some fuzz. So,
I guess that's where the peroxide kicks in.
Okay, see, I never used I've used it to kind of disinfect my mouthpiece, but yeah, the peroxide is good. But also, the pill bottle is good. And then, just having, if you know that you're going to be in a dry climate, then just having a cup, like before I would try out my reeds, especially when I was in Colorado, I would just get a lukewarm cup of water and then put all of my reeds in there and let it soak for like 2 minutes, and then go through all the reeds and play on all of them just to see what they felt like. And one thing Jeff Clayton taught me is on the back of the reed, and I still do this until this day. He taught me this when I was like 18. But on the back of the reed, after going through a full box, I'll just write like 1H if it's hard. I don't know what the 1 stands for. I was just doing what he told me. But then 1 plus if it was pretty resonant but still kind of stiff. 1 plus if it's, still kind of resonant, but I could play on it and it'll open up a little bit more. And then 1 plus if it's just like boom, that's the reed, So what that will do is, like, if you're on a gig or something or playing, you could look on your reed and say, okay, let me reach in. All right, I know I'm going to be playing all day, so more than likely the reed's going to wear down. Let me get a harder reed, Also, just creating more resistance or creating less resistance. These are all saxophone interesting things. But I'm sure a lot of you guys know this already, but if the reed comes out really, really hard after you soak, then and you want to create a little bit less resistance, then put it further down on the mouthpiece to where you're seeing more black of the mouthpiece. Okay? And then if it's a little soft, but it's like, man, I'm not, especially if you've been playing it for like a week or 2 weeks, it's like, man, I don't want to get rid of it yet. There's a couple things you can do. One of the things is you can raise it up on the mouthpiece. That's going to create more resistance to put it a little bit above the tip. Or you can get a reed clipper. Are you guys hip to those? Like, just get a reed clipper, clip the top. But what I recommend, I usually have one, is getting and this cat out in New Jersey, I can't remember his name, but he's a sax technician, and he showed me this. And every time I do this, people think I'm lighting something up on the stage. Okay. Does anybody have a quarter on them? Have you guys seen this technique before? Okay, so this is cool. People think I'm lighting a joint and stuff. I'm like, come on now. Stage, really? Okay, so this is another way that you can clip a reed, burning it down. And to me, this actually maintains the resonance more than clipping it down using a clipper. So you get, for alto and tenor, you get a quarter, you put it to the back of the reed like this, because this is taking the shape most closely to the reed. And then, of course, you want to take just as little off as possible, where there's just like a little bit on top, and then burn. Oh, you got a picture of that one. Ah, you got proof. No. So, and then you just lightly glaze the top. I don't want to do it because this reed feels good right now and I need it for tomorrow. Like this. And just burn it down ever so slightly. It'll get a little browned. And try it, see how it feels, but always start with less, because if you take too much, then your reed's completely gone. So that's another way to clip it, and it still maintains its resonance. Another thing that you can do, now we're getting into the saxophone technical questions, is if it's too stiff, then just put it on the face of the mouthpiece like that, put your finger on the front, and then wiggle it back and forth, like that. That'll help open it up. Another thing you could do is, you know, there's a book called The Art of Saxophone Playing by Larry Teal, and it talks about a lot of this. I don't think it has the burning of the reed. But another thing you could do is get some sandpaper. And of course, we know that this is bamboo and it's porous. It's made up of pores. So to open up the pores, get some sandpaper, pretend like my hand sandpaper, and in following the grain of the reed, just go sh, sh, twice. That'll open up the entire reed. If you want it to become more resonant, now all of this is actually in The Art of Saxophone Playing. You can take just like a little bit off of this top left corner, a little bit off of this top right corner. Okay? The thing is that you don't want to hit the heart of the reed, because that's like your heart, the core of the sound. So if you guys want more information about that, just check out Larry Teal's Art of Saxophone Playing.
How many do you go per week?
Oh, man, it's rough. I'd have to say usually one every couple of days, like probably 2 a week. If I'm playing a lot, sometimes 3. And I mean, I'm really hard on my horns. Like, I went to Japan. This is Yanagisawa, and they made this for me last year. It's a new horn because I was playing another type, and it's completely new. So it's taken actually about a year to break into, and I'm still trying to get used to it because I played my other horn for so long. And they looked at my horn and they were just like, "Man, T, you gotta clean your horn." They were back there talking in Japanese. I know they were talking about it. But they were just laughing, and then they were like, "Dear, you gotta, I know you're playing a lot, but you gotta take the time and clean your horn, because you want your horn to resonate when you play. It's not gonna play right." So they sat for about an hour, cleaned the horn, and yeah, it was just a testament to keep your horns clean. Like, right now it's not very clean, but I'm gonna go home, wipe it off. And there's certain things that you can do aside from, so the swab I wouldn't recommend, because, you know, with that swab, you know, the puffy thing, the puffy stick, the swab retains moisture, and then usually people, I used to have one, but you leave it in your horn and then it's ruining the pads, and it's just, you know, moisture on top of moisture on top of moisture, and it's killing your pads. So what I recommend is just getting a rag. You can, I'm sure, do you have some of these here? And then just pulling it through a couple times, and then rolling that puppy up and putting it on the side of your horn case. That's for the body of the horn and the neck and the mouthpiece. And then they actually gave me some Japanese, they were calling it something else, but it's straight up cigarette paper. They were like, "This is some spiler paper or something." I was like, "That's cigarette paper." And a way that you can help to Really? I'm sorry. My dad actually used to have this in his car, and I was like, why do you have this in your car, Dad? But you can put this in between your pads to really suck up a lot of the moisture from your pads. Let's see if I can get it in there. Now this is the tedious part of like cleaning your horn. Yeah. But put it in between every keyhole and just press down and lightly pull. Another thing that you can do just to get in between like the keys are get a Q-tip and some warm water and just get in between those hard to reach areas. Those crucial areas of the horn, just to keep it nice and clean. Because essentially, it's all about vibrating. The reeds vibrating, vocal cords vibrating in order for us to produce sound. So we want the horn to vibrate. If there's a whole bunch of crud on it, then it's not going to vibrate as much. Yeah. I know, right? I do too. Shoot. Let's see what else. Just trying to give you guys a quick saxophone. Yeah, cleaning, neck, mouthpiece. One thing about playing new horns is give yourself a chance to break it in. It's almost like a new car, you know. And it needs tune-ups. So go in every couple months and just get it tweaked, especially if you're playing a lot. And if you're hard on your horn like me, I play, you know, really loud and like throwing my horn around when I'm playing and stuff. So it's like, you gotta definitely maintenance it.
Every 2 months?
I would, not every 2 months, maybe every 6 months. Like a checkup, like a dental checkup. But it's all really relative to how much you play, you know. I was gonna show you something else. Oh, always, if you can, keep a tool box, like a small little toolbox in your case. I was just in, I was playing with Joe Lovano and like Esperanza and Terry Lynn last week. And of course, I'm like excited for the gig. And surely enough, what happens? I'm playing and I'm hearing some clink, 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 clink. And then I get to the middle of my register and I can't, a couple of my notes weren't speaking. And I'm like, this is right before the gig. So surely enough, I lost a cork. And I was on my hands and knees in the hotel looking for the cork. Couldn't find the cork. So, of course, us being jazz musicians, we have to improvise. So I was looking around. I had like my coffee cup with something that kind of looked like a cork. I'm in there trying to stick it in there. And then I'm trying to look for some sort of adhesive. It wasn't working. Looking for some eyelash glue. That didn't work. So basically, I found some like Scotch tape, you know, turning it inside out, cutting it. And I still actually have it on here. This is what I wanted to ask you about. But this has been on here for 2 weeks, and it's just Scotch tape to prevent it from clinking and to make sure that the horn is playing. But it's good to have like little piece of cork or, you know, your tool set, because you never know when your horn is something's gonna happen to it. And when you take it to the shop, I wear my technician out because he's like, oh, T, you can go. And I'll be like, no, that's okay, I'll stay. And I'll just sit there and watch. Just to see what he's doing and to see how certain things, you know, interact with other things. And because we got to know how to maintenance our horn. We can't always bring it to the saxophone shop. I'm sorry?
You said it's an extension of you.
I'm sorry?
You said it's an extension of you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. So any other questions? I know we've gone way over. Okay. We can do one more. Whatever you guys want. Bye.